Joining us now, the chairman of O'Leary Ventures. He's Kevin O'Leary. Okay, first this, Kevin, we need you, that big brain of yours. Okay, stocks are getting hit because of, ahead of big tech earnings, but also no one knows what the Federal Reserve is going to do tomorrow, Kevin, whether the Fed's going to raise or cut interest rates because inflation is heating up again. What do you think the Fed does?
They're not going to cut rates. I don't think they'll cut rates again this year. I think people should get used to the idea they'll stay where they are longer. The fact is, and it's very easy to think about this from this perspective, the Fed's mandate is 2% inflation, not 2.5, not 3, not 3.2, it's 2. And so inflation is not going down anywhere near 2 for a bunch of reasons, and therefore they will not cut rates. And anybody who thinks they're going to cut this year will be mistaken. And they keep pushing out their optimism month after month, but there'll be no rate cuts this year. I'm investing under the premise that we're going to be living with this rate cycle staying the same for the rest of the year. I'm sorry, it's just reality.
Now we're on the verge of a Fed meeting tomorrow that will no doubt show that Jay Powell wants to keep interest rates up higher for longer because the popular perception is that the economy isn't weakening. Notice, I put it that way, popular perception, because I see brown shoots all over the place. What are brown shoots? They're the opposite of green shoots. You want to see green shoots when you're hoping for the economy to bounce back from recession. I made up the term brown shoots because right now we want a slower economy so that the Fed can eventually start cutting interest rates rather than looking like bozos for taking more rate hikes off the table. So we're looking for brown shoots everywhere, like those weaker consumer confidence numbers and the Chicago PMI figures from this morning, or perhaps the miserable numbers from Starbucks tonight, big company, and filing them away as brown shoots that remind us that the Fed needs to keep rate cuts on the table. And remember, they are the magic elixir for stocks going higher. Ever since March 8th, we've got a much hotter than expected employment number looking at us. We've been worried that the Fed stopped tightening too soon. It's not a coincidence that some of the greatest stocks of the year, like Nvidia, peaked and fell that particular day, because nothing's more important to the broader economy than employment. If it stays strong, then we probably have to have more rate hikes. If Friday's April payrolls report is weaker than expected, though, there's a very good chance that all this negativity about stocks will go away again. Wall Street wants weakness because it will mean the Fed was right and rate cuts are on the horizon. But there's no bridge from here to there, which makes things more fraught than we imagine.
The Federal Reserve recently decided to keep interest rates the same, despite the expectations for a rate cut, which have been persistent since last year. Not only that, but the Fed also suggested that we may not get a cut until late in the year. And here we have Kevin O'Leary saying that he doesn't see a cut happening at all this year. We all know how terrible high internet rates are for the market, because they mean higher borrowing costs for companies and discounted valuations for stocks. So it's only natural that the stock market drops when news like this comes out. And one stock that'll really feel the heat is Nvidia Stock, which has become perhaps the most important stock on the S&P 500, as the company is the leader of one of the most important markets right now, the AI market. Nvidia stock went down by 4% after the Fed's announcement, but the company isn't going to sit still let its stock drop. In fact, it recently announced a new partnership that could rival something that OpenAI is doing, and that's what we're going to talk about today. But before we get into today's video, if you want to keep up with Nvidia's latest updates and keep up with the stock market's latest news, you can follow our Twitter account. We post multiple times daily about the biggest changes and catalysts in the market, so click the follow button if you don't want to miss the newest market updates. Now, back to the video.
You're nodding your head when Steve said stagflation has no place in this conversation. But investors love to jump to the worst case scenario. Is that that is the worst case scenario. Is that in the purview? I mean, is that sort of out there?
No,
not, just absolutely not.
I 100% agree with Steve. Certainly not over the next 12 to 18 months, let's call it. Maybe 3, 5, 7, 10 years down the line, right, when our debt problem becomes such a huge issue and inflation might still be elevated for a lot of demographic type reasons, maybe then you have a stagflationary, environment. But that's quite some time.
So what are we facing right now, in your view?
Well, listen, I still think we're in re-acceleration. Back in March, I said the market would have to price in a hike. I think everybody gave me odd looks when I said that on the panel. And, sure enough, we came into today expecting that a 30% chance of a hike this year or no cuts. I still think we got to go back to that point where the market starts to price in hikes because the economy is strong and inflation continues to surprise to the upside.
Recently, the AI chips giant Nvidia announced a new partnership with Global Mofi Metaverse Limited, its wholly owned subsidiary GOS AI and HotTub. The companies are teaming up to leverage the power of Nvidia's Omniverse platform and its RTX GPUs to develop GoSpeed, a generative AI platform designed for film production, video generation, and other content creation within the digital entertainment sector. Now, longtime Nvidia investors know that Omniverse is an absolute game changer because it's a platform of APIs and services that enable developers to easily integrate rendering technologies into existing software tools and simulation workflows for building AI systems and training robots. Over the last 2 years, GoSpeed was developed and designed from the outset to deeply integrate the Nvidia Omniverse Cloud API, providing creators with a highly collaborative creative space. GoSpeed leverages the Nvidia Omniverse and Nvidia RTX GPU technologies to simplify complex workflows, enhance production efficiency, and support collaboration within the entertainment industry. Also, with advanced scene generation capabilities, GoSpeed enables directors and creators to preview prototype designs early in the project, which allows precise planning and adjustments to ensure that every scene and shot aligns perfectly with the creator's vision, which in turn promotes creative freedom and reduces production complexity. And this means that GoSpeed offers production teams greater control and predictability, fully meeting the stringent demands of the film and television industries. Additionally, with GoSpeed, creators can construct detailed virtual scenes, customize characters and objects, and then generate high-quality video sequences. This capability streamlines the workflow, allowing production teams to visualize scenes and make real-time adjustments, thus enhancing efficiency and collaboration. This is, in some way, similar to OpenAI's Sora, which can generate videos just from written prompts, but on a much bigger scale. They both generate videos, but while Sora is meant to be more accessible, GoSpeed is designed to be used by professionals in the media industry. Undoubtedly, this will be a game changer for content creators, entertainment companies, and the future of both the film and television industries. On top of that, this unlocks huge opportunities for Nvidia itself in a brand new market. The AI chipmaker giant has proven that demand for its GPUs and overall technology is consistently growing, and they can also be used in various areas with hundreds of different applications, which sets Nvidia apart from the competition. When people think of companies that are considered Nvidia competition, AMD will come to mind as the main competitor, but even Nvidia itself would disagree with that. When AMD released their newest MI300 chip, CEO Lisa Su said that they are meant to go head-to-head with Nvidia's best-selling H100 line of accelerators. But funnily enough, Nvidia responded to these claims in a blog post to prove AMD wrong. Let's take a look at what it had to say. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Investocracy.
I'm just certain looking at like the key AI players, if you will. Now, obviously, NVIDIA's blown it out of the water, but why so much if we keep hearing more and more about aspirations for AI from Lisa Su?
Yeah, again, that's part of it. They've been aspirations, right? And, you know, I've said this a lot, but in semiconductors, there's a lot of like AI narratives. There's only 2 companies that have like truly meaningful AI revenues right now, and AMD is not really one of them, not yet, right? I think if you go back to last earnings, expectations for AMD's AI aspirations this year were getting a little bit out over their skis. People were thinking they might do $8 to $10 billion in MI300 AI parts this year. They took the guide down to 3.5. I think up until a few weeks ago, expectations were still that they might do 6. I think given some of these concerns about push-outs, those expectations have come down, and maybe people or your buy side is maybe closer to 4 to 5. I think on the positive, you know, lower expectations in some sense are a good thing. You know, it lets them, you know, kind of take things up as we go, but that's why the stock has been weaker. I think the dangerous thing for AMD on this, though, if they are actually, in fact, pushing things out some, is that their window is not that wide, right? You've got NVIDIA that's launching new products through the end of the year that are going to be, not only the current NVIDIA parts very competitive, but the new ones will be much more competitive. And so they just don't have a whole lot of runway to actually start to really build scale. And you really don't want to see them push out. So we'll see what Lisa can pull out of her hat this afternoon. Can she actually take that number up meaningfully enough to drive upside to where I think expectations had already been a few weeks ago?
Nvidia, as a response to AMD's new chips, dropped a blog post that put a nail in AMD's AI coffin. Nvidia noted that AMD's chips didn't use optimized software in making its performance claims, and if it did, Nvidia's chips would be twice as fast. Also, Bernstein analyst Stacy Raskin wrote that the MI300 is barely competitive with the H100 and certainly won't compete with the H200 or the Blackwell chips launching later this year. So, MI300 pushouts will consequently make an already tough competitive situation even tougher. We have seen what Nvidia can do, and it is definitely doing a great job at increasing its already dominant market share in the AI space and keeping its rivals at bay. So Nvidia investors shouldn't be at all worried about the competition. Thanks to Nvidia's dominant position in the industry, numerous analysts are bullish on Nvidia stock and see a bright future for the chipmaker. For example, UBS analyst Timothy Arcuri considers Blackwell the new game changer for Nvidia, and he raised his price target on the stock to $1,150 from $1,100 while keeping a buy rating in anticipation of its release. On top of that, the analyst tells investors in a research note that the firm's supply chain work suggests the mix in 2025 may be much richer than the firm expected. Also, he added that the increased mix assumptions for Blackwell, driven by strong demand for GB200 server racks, indicates a strategic shift for Nvidia towards becoming a full-stack provider. And it's not Arcuri only who sees Blackwell is going to make tremendous changes. Let's find out who else is betting big on Nvidia. If you made it this far into the video, thank you. These videos take a lot of effort and time to make, so if you enjoyed them, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. This goes a long way in helping us grow. That said, back to the video.
All right, time for a mad dash. 22 minutes into the show, and we haven't mentioned Nvidia.
Do you
until
remember
now.
Nvidia? Do you remember that?
I do. I remember.
Okay, do you remember the piece in 60 Minutes? Was a piece mostly about whether we'd all be taken over by robots?
Yeah, sure.
I will tell you that here's a piece by UBS, and it's talking about dollars, how much they're going to make. Earnings per share to 41 following supply chain. 41. Well, David, this is cheaper stock. It's cheap stock. And they're talking about shipment for Blackwell in December. Now, they think that means there's going to be a product hole. I think Blackwell ships earlier. Now, Blackwell is the big one that makes it so that a lot of people feel they can do video. That's what I want. When people think Blackwell, they should be thinking that you can inject video, and then when you want to do inference, it will be able to do the video for it. And that's a rather remarkable thing. Right now, we're very good at commands, at words. But if we get video going, wow.
What does that mean?
Well,
what are you actually saying?
So you want your robot to act like Daniel Craig in Bond. Well, it will watch Daniel Craig, and it'll do it.
It'll do it.
It'll do it. And I think that what happens when you see that is, wait a second, how did it do that? Well, it just ingested video. It's no longer just print. I mean, right now it can be Moby Dick in a second, big deal. But when you can put movies in, David, I can project you to be Cary Grant.
Really?
Or John Garfield.
John Garfield is the one that does come up more often.
Right. But I'm just saying that video is the next frontier. And if you can be able to make video and do things, then you can teach robots to do things that we've never believed. Robots will not talk like this. Robots will talk like, hey, how you doing, partner?
So
you can program a robot to do anything.
Conceivably, when it starts to actually be used, could leapfrog the technology.
Right, and also if you're Amazon, I mean, you can just do it. These guys think, one of the things that's great about Jensen, he says, look, I don't know if you saw it in the interview, he said, I don't know what people can do with this, but we know that they can have it. So you'll be getting, I tried to look at Getty Images, little stock, because Getty Images, they're using a lot of that stuff.
Right.
But when I went to the bar, the NVIDIA bar, with the robot didn't know much.
No.
Now the robot will be so smart that when I get to Cinco de Mayo, it's really just Modelo versus Corona. He's not going to say to me, how would you like a Jack Daniels Diet Coke? No. You can be suave, David.
That would be a first.
No, it's big. Blackwell's huge, and I think that this UBS piece is actually a little too negative about Blackwell.
All right.
If you didn't understand anything Jim Cramer said, that's fine, because the other host and I didn't really understand him either. However, in a nutshell, he thinks that Blackwell is going to be essential for powering humanoid robots, saying that the robot could be somehow injected with a video of James Bond actor Daniel Craig, and then it would talk and behave like the actor. This shows how advanced and powerful Blackwell is going to be, and it's not only going to power robots, but it will also support the design of virtual movie sets, which we talked about earlier in the video, and on top of that, it will support the creation of protein-based drugs to fight diseases, which will take Nvidia to a whole other level in the healthcare industry. It will also be integrated into EVs to develop powerful self-driving cars, and it'll also be used by cloud computing giants like Microsoft and Amazon to power their operations. So there are a lot of opportunities open for Nvidia's new tech, which is why many Wall Street analysts remain bullish on Nvidia stock, despite macro events like high interest rates bringing the stock down. Nvidia has proven that it's dominating the AI chipmaker market and will continue to do so for a really long time. But what do you think about Nvidia stock, and what are your expectations for the company? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section, and don't forget to tell us what your valuation for Nvidia is. If you would like to know more about the latest updates about companies like Nvidia, then go ahead and click on the next video on your screen. See you there.